Good afternoon. This is the Local Agency Formation Commission meeting of Wednesday, May 15th, 2019. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cosgrove,
Here.
Commissioner Garbarino,
Here.
Commissioner Horsley,
Here.
Commissioner Lohman,
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill, Commissioner Slocum,
Here.
Chair Draper.
Here, and I'd like to acknowledge our two alternates that are in the audience, which is Katie Merton from Special Districts and James O'Neill, the alternate for public agent, the public. We have a consent calendar. We received minutes electronically, and we got a copy of them on our DS today. And we have the second item, which is a proposed annexation of 180 Bear Gulch Road in Portola Valley to the West Bay Sanitary District. Is there a motion for approving the consent
So
calendar?
moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. Anybody have any? Okay. The item 4 is consideration of adoption of the final work program and LAFCo budget for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. Good afternoon, Chair Draper and Commissioners. You have a staff report dated May 8th that should have been labeled Item 4. It details the state-mandated process for adopting the Commission's budget in 2 separate hearings, the funding formula that apportions the net operating budget in thirds to the county, the 20 cities, and 21 independent special districts, the recommended work program, and the current year estimated year-end budget, and the recommended adopted 2019-20 fiscal year budget. The recommended appropriations budget is $614,469. It's pointed out that an incorrect budget amount was inadvertently included in the fee revision report that Rob will be presenting later, and that's the correct amount is $614,469. The Commission's budget is based on cost associated with LAFCo's contract with the County of San Mateo for staffing office supplies, legal, counsel, and other services. The 2019 fiscal year budget reflects the first full year of 2.5 full-time equivalent staffing, including the executive officer, management analyst, and a shared administrative assistant, compared to the long-standing staffing level of full-time executive officer and half-time secretary. The Commission's Budget Committee, Vice Chair Cosgrove and Commissioners Horsley and O'Neill, considered the draft proposed budget and unanimously recommended approval at your March meeting. And following the Commission's approval in March, public notice was published in the San Mateo County Times and sent to affected agencies for today's hearing. Revisions to the March 20 version of the budget are based on finalized charges from the county and revised membership costs. The LAFCo reserve was also increased because it's based on 3% of the appropriations budget. The budgeted salary for the part-time executive secretary was increased to $55,733 from the $52,138 to better align the duties of that position with the correct county job classification. By way of update, we have done a recruitment using a list from the county, and we thought we had a candidate and don't, so we have to start that process over again. So there will be additional salary savings in this budget for that delay. In regard to the work program, a priority will be municipal service reviews and sphere of influence updates, focusing on agencies who have yet to have their first review. And in addition, a second municipal service review for county service areas 11 and 7, primarily because we anticipate an application for a sphere of influence amendment and annexation to county service area 11. Other agencies that will be studied include San Mateo County Resource Conservation District, City of South San Francisco and Westboro Water District, county service areas, San Bruno and Millbrae, and then Burlingame, Hillsborough, and Foster City. Staff will also commence second-round service reviews and municipal service sphere reviews and municipal service reviews for South County and coastside cities and districts. And it's anticipated that because these are second round, they'll focus on what's changed since the last municipal service review and sphere update, and they won't be as extensive as those first ones that were prepared. We're also, staff's working with your Legislative and Policy Committee on updating the Commission's policies and procedures. We have the outreach to affected cities regarding annexation plans and annexation agreements. And in general, the day-to-day activities include pre-application inquiries and processing the boundary change applications, the ongoing update of LAFCo the LAFCo website and the directory on the website. And that is in part based on just changes in elected officials, changes in staffing, city managers, et cetera. We are in ongoing discussion with the San Francisco Public Utility Commission regarding transfer of properties directly connected to the San Francisco Public Utility Commission transmission line, primarily in the San Carlos, Redwood City area. Discussions with City of South San Francisco regarding requests for sewer connections in unincorporated Country Club Park. And then, as I stated earlier, we are anticipating an annexation application that involves County Service Area 11, and so we're pretty involved in pre-application discussion regarding extension of CSA 11 water service to Pescadero High School and a proposed fire station. So that explains, I think, kind of the general activities that are included in your budget. The recommendation today is to open the public hearing, accept public comment, and consider and adopt by resolution the recommended final budget for 2019-20 of $614,469 as proposed or with any desired changes, and then direct the executive officer to distribute the budget to the county, cities, and independent special districts and forward it to the county controller. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Does the commission have any
I
questions?
just have one question. The one on the SFPUC, that's probably really Cordilleras. Cordilleras Mutual Water is one of the areas. I mean, I was interested in this. I started trying to get the city of Redwood City to take that over 8 years ago, and have never been successful. Obviously, a failure in that regard.
I don't think you were a failure. We continue to work on it. It's not just Cordilleras Mutual. There's actually several properties that have building permits or plans for building permits that are directly connected to the transmission line, and they're individual customers of SFPUC. And SFPUC is not allowing them to change their line, and there's a Redwood City line running right down the street, and it's trying to get those transferred over for those reasons.
Yeah, in fact, we at one time had a map of that whole area, and there are homes that are directly connected, and there's about 18 connections to what was called Cordilleras Mutual Water. And at some of them we had, I don't know that SFPD even knew that, or SFPUC, I'm not sure that they were even aware of some of them. And I know that in Warren Slocum's district, they've had some similar issues as well. Is the city of Redwood City somewhat more amenable to taking them into their system?
We're working on it, but not yet.
I don't know if you can do it. I only have 3 years and 8 months to go, so maybe we can finish.
Yeah.
But who's counting? Thanks.
Any other questions of the commission, by the commission? Well, I learned that that the chair can open and close a public hearing, no motion needed. So I'm going to open the public hearing to see if there's any public comment. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and then entertain a motion for items 2 and 3 as shown on our screen. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve items 2 and 3 as stated.
Is there a second? Do we need a roll call for a resolution or voice? Is that okay?
If it's unanimous, it can be voice. If it's anything but unanimous, you need a roll call.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, we can move on. The next item is item 5, and it is consideration of revised schedule of fees. Staff?
Good afternoon, Commission and Chair Draper. Presenting the updated fees, as Martha had mentioned, there is a recommendation error on the staff report. The correct recommendations are on page 2 of the staff report and are not related to the budget, but are specific to the updated fees. As part of the 2019-2020 budget, LAFCo staff has reviewed the existing fee schedule, which was last updated in 2014. The proposed updates before you are to the fees consider increased salaries and benefits, the addition of a full-time management analyst position, the shared secretary position, and the varying complexity and requirements related to processing different types of applications that we've seen before LAFCo. The proposed revised processing fees was unanimously recommended for approval at the March 20th commission meeting. There has been no changes to the schedule since that time. The commission also at that meeting recommended that the processing fees be reviewed on a biannual basis, which would be then the next revised review would be in 2021. And the public notice was circulated in the San Mateo County Times and to affected agencies, and there was no public comments that were made on the application and the proposed revised fee schedule. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does the commission have any questions? I will open the public hearing to see if there's any public comment. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And we need a motion on the adoption of the recommended final budget.
I'll make the motion.
Of the processing fees.
The fee, sorry.
I'll make the motion to adopt the 2019 LAFCo processing fee schedule.
Second.
And there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, we'll go on to item 6A. As was previously mentioned, one of the subcommittees is beginning the Municipal Service Review and Office Sphere of Influence update, and today it's here for information only. And take it away, staff.
Yes, thank you. You have a staff report dated May 8th that provides an informational overview of municipal service reviews and sphere of influence updates. And as noted, staff's working with the Legislative and Policy Committee on an update to the policies, both for municipal service reviews and sphere of influence, and wanted to have the commission get this overview and an opportunity for any kind of input you'd like to provide. The requirement for spheres of influence was enacted in 1984 and is contained in Section 56425, which sets forth the requirement for spheres of influence and the determinations that must be made in adopting a sphere. Section 56430, enacted with the 2000 rewrite of the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, details the requirements for municipal service reviews to be prepared in conjunction with or prior to adopting or updating a sphere of influence. The staff report includes a table listing San Mateo County's 20 cities, 22 independent special districts, and 11 county-governed or city-governed special districts that are subject to sphere of influence designations and municipal service reviews. Some districts, because of their enabling legislation, are not subject to spheres of influence, but when LAFCo prepares a municipal service review, the report will include information on those districts to make sure that there's a full report on the pattern of service delivery in the area being studied. A municipal service review is a comprehensive study designed to inform LAFCo, local agencies, and the community about the provision of municipal services. The service reviews are focused studies on the operations, finance, and governance of agencies to identify opportunities for greater efficiencies and coordination and cooperation between providers and alternative governance models. Service reviews are often received with reluctance by agencies under study, and it's often necessary to emphasize that they are not proposals for change or reorganization, but opportunities for that agency to tell their story. The municipal service review is a prerequisite to a sphere of influence determinations. And so the difference then between the municipal service review is this kind of internal study of a specific agency in regard to finance, efficiencies, et cetera, whereas the sphere of influence is a plan for the probable physical boundaries and service area of a local agency as determined by the commission. The sphere of influence may also designate the planned governance model for an agency, including but not limited to status quo, dissolution, or consolidation. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act contains municipal service review determinations that are mandatory and then also provides for discretion for the commission. And just briefly, the growth and population projections, we use analysis from census population, California Department of Finance estimates, Association of Bay Area Government, Regional Housing Needs Allocation, and any other information where appropriate, depending upon the type of agency. the location and characteristics of any disadvantaged unincorporated communities within or contiguous to the sphere of influence. Disadvantaged unincorporated community means inhabited territory as defined by Government Code Section 56046 that constitutes all or a portion of a disadvantaged community. And it is very specific, as it's a community with an annual median household income that is less than 80% of statewide annual median in household income. This is a definition that, because of the cost of living in San Mateo County, we don't have any that are specifically unincorporated disadvantaged communities. Now, that doesn't mean that when the commission is looking at municipal service reviews and whether or not to consider disadvantaged communities, the commission has the discretion to address areas that are disadvantaged that may be not fitting this exact specific category, but in need of better, in particular, utilities for water and sewer. The present and planned capacity of public facilities, adequacy of public services, and infrastructure needs or deficiencies, including deficiencies related to sewers, municipal water, et cetera. So we would look at communities that would qualify that might not be disadvantaged by definition would include the town of Pescadero or the agricultural communities on the other agricultural communities on the coast side.
Martha, would you, like some parts of North Fair Oaks, wouldn't that?
Yes, however, one of the real focuses on this identifying the disadvantaged communities is a real focus on water and sewer. And so they're not really qualifying in that regard.
Okay.
And that is, I think, one thing that we're fortunate for. This disadvantaged communities really comes out of the Central Valley, where there's a lot of unincorporated areas that are on septic and wells that need to be annexed and get sewer. I'd like Rob to address financial ability of agencies to provide services.
So just briefly, because this has been a topic that has been in my mind recently, because I went to a workshop last week that talked about pension liabilities and long-term costs to jurisdictions. I know, fascinating topic. But the importance that was emphasized at that workshop of understanding how to view those costs, how there are changes at the state level, at CalPERS, at Samsara in some cases, that can impact the long-term liability that an agency has that may not be of their own making in some cases, depending on how the rate of return works, about how they have their benefits structured. But so that is something that we will be certainly looking at going forward, is understanding each agencies and each special districts, whether it's a city or otherwise, how that is structured in some which way. And there's also the importance of understanding that whether an unfunded liability, that's okay. It kind of equates to a whole mortgage versus an unfunded plan for pensions and for long-term benefits. It's also the issues of facing agencies that soon they will be having more retirees than they will have active employees, and how that will balance out with there being less contributions to these defined benefit plans, but more demand on them. Also looking at how cities and special districts are going to plan for that, and how they're going to take in guidance from CalPERS or Samsara. Samsara, while covers county employees, also does the pension for the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District. And then also looking at how jurisdictions are able to gain revenues, whether the differences between enterprise districts and funds that kind of run much more like a business, and there's fees for services and charges. A lot of special districts or some jurisdictions might have those types of funds set up, and the non-enterprise districts are funds, and back to general funds that are delivered, that provide benefit to the entire community. And looking at what those revenues are that goes into those enterprise funds and non-enterprise funds, looking at sales tax, looking at property tax, looking at TOT and other kinds of revenues. So that would be generally what we would be looking at as we move forward on that topic.
Thank you. The item E, status of and opportunities for shared facilities, is an analysis that includes existing practices and potential opportunities in regard to sharing common facilities amongst different agencies, or even one agency contracting with another. Accountability for community service needs, including government structure options and operational efficiencies, includes public availability of agency. So part of it is about transparency, availability of agency budgets, agenda reports and other documents, source data such as organizational charts, budget, website, survey information provided by agencies, and potential reorganization pursuant to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, the enabling legislation, and state legislative policies encouraging efficient delivery of services and logical boundaries. Then G, any other matter related to effective or efficient service delivery as required by Commission policy. And this is where the Commission can enhance their policies to address local conditions or changes such as environmental changes, sea level rise, climate change. So the Commission has already adopted a water resiliency and climate change policy statement that will be, it was actually adopted kind of as a standalone statement, and it will now be moved into the municipal service review policies as a consideration. And it would be a way to address the extent to which the agency under study is preparing for climate change and responding to the need for that. The other is that would be recommended is the impact of natural hazards and mitigation planning. An analysis would include a review of natural hazards that may impact the jurisdiction, including wildfire, earthquakes, and flooding. And there's a lot of work right now that's going on in San Mateo County out of the Office of Sustainability. We've been participating in the workshops that they were holding, and that will help us kind of better inform the policies there. The services that are included in a municipal service review are really just kind of the hard municipal services, not necessarily administrative, planning, health services, human services. I guess with the exception that we have 2 healthcare districts that are subject to spheres of influence, so they're subject to municipal service reviews, and we've conducted 2 municipal service reviews on those agencies and included information that about the county's health programs as well. In terms of process, the municipal service reviews are prepared by staff unless the Commission finds that based on complexity or controversy, the review should be prepared by an independent consultant. There's a survey that's mailed to the agencies that we basically get back from them and turn that into an administrative draft that is then reviewed by them. That becomes a circulation draft that reflects the comments from the affected agencies, and it's circulated to the agencies, residents, property owners, or other interested parties. LAFCo may hold a scoping meeting or study session as necessary in the community. And then LAFCo could appoint, if it's a particularly complex municipal service review, a committee of the Commission to assist staff. And then we would, once we do that circulation draft, we get comments. It's very much like an EIR, a negative declaration or draft EIR. You get comments and you incorporate those comments to the extent necessary in the final municipal service review that is then considered by the Commission at a notice public hearing. And the municipal service review determinations, once adopted, are provided to the agency, and then each agency under review will be requested to provide a continuity report 1 year from the municipal service review. And then moving on to spheres of influence, there are 5 state mandated spheres to be considered, determinations to be adopted by the Commission, and those are on this slide before you. These are, so as you can see, compared to kind of the very technical determinations in a municipal service review that are very specific to operations, this is more general concerning the kind of land use of the agency, probable present and probable need for public facilities and services in the area, the capacity of the agency, and then any social or economic communities of interest, as well as the issue of disadvantaged communities. So the municipal service review is really the basis for many of the sphere of influence determinations. I wanted to just give you just some examples of outcomes of municipal service reviews and sphere updates in San Mateo County. And examples include the consolidation of Point Montera and Half Moon Bay Fire Protection Districts following a municipal service review, dissolution of Skyline County Water District, and transfer of the system to Cal Water, and that was initiated, both of those, the first was initiated by similar resolutions of the two fire districts. Skyline County Water District adopted a resolution of application to dissolve. And then we had a more difficult situation of Los Troncos County Water District that had several municipal service reviews, and it was a district that sold its water system to Cal Water but continued to collect property tax and spend it on rebates to the customers on their water bills and things like that. And that took, I think, about 7 years, but we eventually got an application for a dissolution from them. So as noted, the Commission's Legislative and Policy Committee and staff are in the process of reviewing and updating the service review and sphere policies and welcome your input.
So the subcommittee felt that because this is such a meaty part of what we do, we should bring it to the full commission, ask if there's any questions. And you may not have a question right now or you have a suggestion, but it may come to you in the coming days and weeks, and so that you could refer it on to Martha or Rob. So are there any comments, questions about this?
Do we have proposed schedule for the next reviews that are coming up for the next year or so?
Yes, that's in the budget document,
Oh, in the budget document. Okay.
in the work program.
I just have one observation, that is more in the holy cow, doesn't San Mateo County have a lot of agencies that I looked at this list and thought, wow, this is long. And some have been done and some are to be done. So that's my comment. The other is just a request that the state LAFCo, when you meet with them or your counterparts, may have some things I'll call trending issues, things that have come up. You just mentioned one which had to do with PERS liability, but there may be some that are coming up in other parts of the state that may be here or may not. And if you could just ask what's trending now, what's coming up that we haven't seen in the past, that would be great just to know. Any other items? Okay, thank you for that information. The next, sorry, what did you have a, okay. 6B is the legislative report.
Yes, very briefly, your packet includes a May 7 report on pending legislation affecting LAFCOs, the Cal LAFCo daily legislative report, and information on AB 818 with a recommended support letter, and AB 600 with a recommended opposition letter. And AB 818, Cal LAFCO is requesting opposition letters for this, and staff does recommend sending the letter. This bill appears to want to complement LAFCO's municipal service reviews and work on disadvantaged unincorporated communities. Oh, excuse me. That's 600. This bill is actually a good bill. It's recommended. We recommend that 818 that we send a letter of support. This bill would reinstate vehicle license fee revenue to newly incorporated cities that was removed by prior legislation. And then AB 600, CHU, this bill attempts to address sewer and water service to disadvantaged communities by adding a step beyond the LAFCO process that would require local agencies to do additional planning. That's troubling in that it would actually require LAFCO to approve service extensions when annexation is the superior alternative. And that's a primary reason that I would recommend opposition of it. The bill sponsor is the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, which advocates for funding to address drinking water and wastewater, but primarily they're focused on the Central Valley. And then the other item that's highlighted is AB 825 Mullen, which is legislation that would form the San Mateo County Flood and Sea Level Rise Resiliency District, or actually by reorganizing the existing flood control district. and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Does the commission have any questions? Seeing none, we need a motion, one for the letters, to support the letters, and one's for approval and one's for opposition. Seeing we have no questions, I think we can handle this with one motion. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to provide the direction to staff on the proposed letter of support for AB 818 and proposed letter of opposition for AB 600.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. We're on to commissioner and then staff reports. Commission, is there anything you wish to report? Staff, is there anything that you have additional?
Just very briefly, we, all three of us attended the LAFCo workshop in San Jose, April 10th to the 12th. And it gave us the opportunity to do just kind of general networking, but also there were sessions. There was a mobile workshop that was to the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, and it also took us through the downtown San Jose revitalization areas. And then we were able to go to San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Preservation Association, which had a lot of resources for local agencies regarding kind of revitalization and housing and transportation planning. There was a general session for legal counsel to share where they reviewed court cases. There was a session on GIS, a special session that was for analysts, so Rob benefited from that. Session on resolution writing, which was riveting. And then I was a panelist on a session regarding the reading, kind of avoiding the pitfalls of potential misinterpretation of some of the provisions of the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, because it's not a real linear process. Once you get into the second part, that is the protest process, it sends you back to sections about petitions and things, and so that was actually a pretty lively session because I got to share our infamous open space district litigation experience. So, and also we had a session on the LAFCo legislative update, which is always helpful.
Thank you. And it is 3:02, and we are adjourned. Thank you.